So, with the most recent CSIS leak coming out, essentially claiming that the Liberals knew the CCP was threatening and opposing MP's family back in Hong Kong and it was being facilitated by a diplomat inside Canada, and they did nothing about it, we can start having the talk about potential treason charges against Justin Trudeau and other high-ranking Liberals. First, if you're thinking, I've been saying this for years, well, I'm going to say you're part of the problem here. Because this is a very, very high bar. And I'm not saying Justin Trudeau is guilty of treason. I'm saying it's now reasonable to bring up the conversation. And things that Justin Trudeau has done that are not treason is pretty much everything we've been complaining about. It doesn't mean Justin Trudeau is right, but if Justin Trudeau signs on to UN Sustainable Development Goals, this might be bad policy, it's not treason, okay? Justin Trudeau may be bringing in an obscene amount of immigrants that our country can't really handle in terms of economics or cultural impact, and you could say, again, this is bad policy, it's not treason. That's not treason, okay? Again, bad policy, not treason. Right? It's the exact same thing where, Justin Trudeau will claim that if you oppose these means, you're racist, right? It's not racist to criticism of immigration targets, it's simply critiques of policy, right? But throwing around the racism charge at everything conservatives think waters it down, because there is going to be some times where someone's going to put a swastika on and Sikh Heil all over the place, and that is racism, right? Let's not water down the thing. Just like there might be a time where we need to have a serious conversation about the Liberals being potentially treasonous in their actions with China. And you can't have that watered down with people screaming that going to a UN meeting or the World Economic Forum is treason. Again, bad policy, not treason. So it's not high treason by our laws. Here's the section of the law where you could potentially make a case here, all right? So this is section 2B of treason. Paragraph B is without lawful authority, communications or makes available to an agent of state other than Canada, military or scientific information or any sketch, plan, model, article, note, or document of a military or scientific character that he knows or ought to know may be used by that state for a purpose of prejudicial to the safety or defense of Canada. So the whole cumulative argument is what the Trudeau government's done, is it willfully undermining the defense of Canada? Again, I'm not saying throw him in jail, drag him out of office right now. I'm simply saying, by all the evidence coming out from CSIS, we need to have a serious independent investigation, not done by Justin Trudeau's family friend with a rubber stamp to say, oh, look, we investigated ourselves, did nothing wrong, or an ethics commissioner who finds, yeah, they were guilty of something, but that's a $500 fine. No, this is serious. Because a lot of things could be true, right? This could be political actors within inside CSIS leaking bad information to the press to undermine Trudeau. Could be it. Could be that there's the intelligence agencies are politically compromised in front of Trudeau, and this is all true. And the CSIS people are just leaking this because they tried to go through the proper channels, they couldn't, so they went through the Globe and Mail. It could also be true that this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much stuff out there that this is, only 20% of what's actually going on. It's a lot worse than what we have. We don't know any of these things, but if half of what the CSIS leaks in the totality of what's happened in the last 2 months is true, this needs a serious investigation because it's outright criminal. And at the high end, it's potentially treasonous. At the low end, this is criminal negligence when it comes to foreign affairs. So let's just talk about what is today, and then we'll go on. It will compound it with the other things. But this is the Liberals giving a tacit green light by knowing and doing nothing that a foreign intelligence agency, or like the People's Republic of China, is actively threatening opposing MPs who take stances on human rights. This is in retaliation to Michael Chong saying, the Uyghur genocide is a bad thing, right? I think genocide's bad. Michael Chong thinks genocide is bad. Justin Trudeau doesn't think putting Muslims in concentration camps and, forcibly converting them, murdering them, and raping them is all that bad. Again, I disagree, but that's why Justin Trudeau would say this is an Islamophobic criticism from me, because I take the don't genocide Muslims stance. He takes the where, what's happening? Oh, Muslims in concentration camps. I don't know anything about that stance. Bit of an opposite there, but again, can think of the implications of this though, right? What you're doing to undermine the security of the state here is you're giving a green light for foreign intelligence agencies with hostile intent to harass Canadian MPs, former ministers, people who have these security clearances, who know things about foreign affairs. So you're enabling and giving the green light and putting in a situation where if the Pakistani ISI looks at this and they see any Pakistani MPs who have families back in Pakistan, well, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable leveraging threats against those family members to do the bidding of the Pakistani government. And, this has two effects. One, it puts a chilling nature on, people from these communities for either running for office or if they're in office, right? It puts their family members under threat because you've given the green light to this. And then two, right, how do you expect the average Canadian not to take a look at this and say, do I want to vote for someone who has connections to a country who might potentially do this? And again, this isn't like a racist thought by people, and it will be interpreted as such by the most, let's say, uncharitable left-wing critics, where they're going to say, Daniel's claiming that you shouldn't trust Chinese or Pakistani Canadians. Like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is you're putting in the back of everyone's mind, though, both of the people of Pakistani, Indian, Russian, Iranian descent who have family back home, that if they run for office, their family members back home might be fair game to those hostile security agencies if they give the Trudeau Foundation enough money. Right? This is a terrible precedent to set. Right? And you have to defend your opposing MPs. This would be like, imagine if I was Prime Minister and the Indian government, who isn't a hostile nation, but it's the same principle, it's a different nation, right? If they were to start threatening Jagmeet Singh's family because Jagmeet Singh openly supports terrorism against Hindus and Indians, right? I despise Jagmeet Singh, and I would criticize Jagmeet Singh for his supporting of terrorism against an ally. But if that ally went to the extent to threaten Jagmeet Singh's family while he was sitting in office, leading an opposition party, and was trying to leverage him through threats and intimidation of his family, I would take Jagmeet's side there, because the integrity of our country needs to hold. Like, that becomes the primary thing there. It's because, Jagmeet, however much I dislike the guy, you have to stand up for the fact that he represents Canadians, has certain access to sensitive information, and needs to be protected, right? By giving a green light to all these hostile security agencies to harass MPs and their families. Like, it's not good for the security of the state, right? And then you combine this with a lot of different things, right? So you have Han Dong, who is making clandestine phone calls to the Chinese ambassador consistently. Backbencher MPs don't make clandestine phone calls to the embassy. How much do the Liberals know about this? Did they facilitate this? Were they using Han Dong as an intermediary with the CCP to, work, again, for their interests? We have the Winnipeg lab leak. So this is the scientific stuff. We have, who gave the security clearances to these Chinese nationals who essentially probably leaked sensitive data back to the Chinese, which might have resulted in something to do with the global pandemic. Again, we don't know. We don't know this, but there needs to be an investigation, because all the things at their worst totaled up, it could amount to making the case where we have to talk about it. And give me a betting man, do you think Justin Trudeau's guilty of treason? Odds are probably no. All right, I'd say more than 50%. If we looked at all of it, it wouldn't amount to it. But I'm saying, though, it's not a 0% chance that he's going to get away with it, and probably above 10%, and that's serious. And just because it's not treason doesn't mean this isn't criminal neglect leading to a severe degradation of the national security system of Canada, right? So at a point it becomes semantic, okay, what is Justin Trudeau guilty of? What does his punishment need to be? That's also not the primary thing. It's what are his actions doing? The security of our country has been severely undermined here. Severely. And you're basically setting up a precedent that if you donate money, or if you do the right amount of influence, there are levers to pull in the Canadian political system through dummy charities or whatever, where you can buy influence in our country, but not just that, use threats and intimidation against elected officials to influence Canadian policy, right? And again, this might be the tip of the iceberg here. Again, I trust Michael Chong. I don't like him on domestic policy. I think he's actually pretty good on foreign policy. He's a red Tory, but, he's a man of principle. I just don't want him leader of the CPC. I've had this for whatever. And I trust Michael Chong. And, but however good, you could meet Michael Chong, and you can meet most people. This goes for me, this goes for you, this goes for white people as well. Okay? You can trust them as MP, they can be smart. But If a bad guy's holding a gun to the head of their mother, father, brother, sister, husband, wife, right? They're going to make decisions that are not in the best interest of the country a lot of the time. A lot of people don't have the ability to say, the hostile intelligence agency with a history of murdering opponents has a gun to the head of my family members. I better do what they want, or else, my wife, my cousin, my whatever gets it, right? And it's not their fault. It doesn't make them bad people. And what I'm saying, though, is whether it's through neglect, outright malice, arrogance, ignorance, stupidity, whatever the reason is, Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, Katie Telford, Melanie Jolie, Harjit Sajjan, all these clowns, Meningino, they are creating a system that has severely undermined the Canadian institutional integrity and its national security. And does it amount to the level of treason? The answer is, I don't know. And maybe not. But we're now at the point where there can be a legitimate conversation to be had about the Liberals being implicated in a potential treasonous action. And that's ridiculous, okay? And I will say, if you're like, I've been saying it for years, no, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Klaus Schwab, none of that's treason. It's stupidity. It's basically a way to funnel money to BlackRock under the guise of social justice and saving the world, and I'm not for that. But it's not treasonous. This is actions taken or actions not taken to deliberately undermine the state of Canada or the country. Like, it's not good. And if you just want to poo-poo this and say, oh, Globe and Mail, this is a thing, you're part of the problem. And I'm not saying lock them up right now. I'm saying this needs to be investigated because there's potential deep criminal actions, and it's not even the most important thing. The most important thing is whether it's criminal or not criminal, Canada is suffering, and our institutions and our sovereign integrity is deeply under threat and has been undermined by the Trudeau government, and that's undeniable.